These boys place a board eraser on the door, so when someone enters the classroom, it will drop on their head. The girls try to stop them, but they shut them up. And when a classmate enters the classroom, he instantly grabs the duster before it hits him, which makes the girls crazy and the delinquents irritated. Later, the same boy goes to the toilet, and the delinquents throw a bucket of water at him, but they don't know he actually has an umbrella to save himself. When he comes back to the classroom, he notices the delinquents have thrown his desk out of the window, and instantly, all the girls offer him and insist he sit on their chairs. But he refuses and instead sits on the window, which again makes all the boys and girls crazy for his coolness. This boy's name is Sakamoto. He is the coolest boy in the school. Ordinary people walk on the street, but he walks on the wall. People climb stairs, but he actually climbs like he is on an elevator. Even punishments look cool on him. These delinquents, led by Maeda, are from his class, and they get irritated by this. They decide to get their revenge. A student comes to Sakamoto and tells him that a teacher is calling him in the science lab after school to help set up for tomorrow's class. When Sakamoto enters the lab, the delinquents grab him inside, and the door accidentally gets locked. They tie up Sakamoto and decide to take revenge by different tactics, like using chemicals and performing experiments on him, or taking his strip photos and mailing them to all the girls in class. But suddenly, Maeda smells something burning and notices that there is a fire in the lab. They try to extinguish the fire with a jacket, but fail and decide to run away. Because of the lock, the door won't open, and one suggests using their phone to call a friend. But two of them left their phones in the classroom, and Maeda's phone battery is dead. So the idiots decide to use some chemicals, but Sakamoto warns them that it can cause the fire to spread. When they ask him what to do, Sakamoto instantly removes his jacket and starts to sidestep in front of the fire. The delinquents get surprised at what he is doing, but then realize that he is actually making a draft side to side. As Sakamoto is working hard to save their lives, they also decide to help him. Beneath this classroom is the teacher's staff room, and one teacher decides to go check the lab. Meanwhile, Sakamoto and the delinquents are sidestepping together, and when the teacher opens the door, he gets surprised to see what looks like a dark ritual all of them are performing. Finally, the teacher extinguishes the fire, and the delinquents realize that Sakamoto was not dancing. Actually, he was trying to make noise, so a teacher from the staff room would come to check. When the teacher asks about the reason, Sakamoto saves them by telling him that he was teaching them how to use an alcohol lamp, and takes all the blame on himself. Now Maeda and the others get inspired by Sakamoto and decide to become his fans too. One day, this boy, Sarah, from Sakamoto's class, shows the girls that he is actually in a magazine, but the girls give him fake compliments. Sarah thinks of himself as modern and fashionable. Just then, a girl comes to class with a newspaper and shows everyone with a magnifying glass that Sakamoto was flying in yesterday's storm, and the girls go wild over this. This irritates Sarah as Sakamoto is getting all the attention, and he decides to crush him. In class, Sakamoto answers a question from the teacher, but when he is about to sit, Sarah pulls his chair. Sakamoto does not fall and actually sits in midair. Later in sports class, Sakamoto dodges all the balls thrown by Sarah. After class, when Sarah goes to drink water, the tap splashes water on him because it was under repair. Just then, he notices that Sakamoto is approaching to drink water, and he instantly removes the under repair. Sakamoto also gets a splash on his face, but even a splash looks cool on him, and all the girls cheer for him. Later in class, a hornet enters the classroom, and everyone starts shouting. The girls instantly run out of the class and shut the door, trapping all the boys inside. Everyone runs to save their lives. Suddenly, the teacher asks all of them to remove their clothes because hornets target black moving things. He explains that he himself was once attacked by a giant hornet in the USA, which almost cost him his life. Everyone instantly removes their clothes, and the girls go wild. Sarah mocks the other boys and laughs at them, but when the hornet passes by him, he gets scared and removes his clothes too. Suddenly, Sarah notices that Sakamoto is still sitting on his chair without any worry. He gets shocked and thinks Sakamoto is still showing off. He instantly gets up, unable to throw away the shame, and tries to finish the hornet, which sits on Sakamoto's head. But Sakamoto dodges Sarah's attack, and the hornet attacks Sarah instead. Just then, Sakamoto stops the hornet with the compass, but the hornet goes after him. Sakamoto faces the hornet and eventually uses his secret technique of grasping the hornet's stinger. This shocks everyone, and Sakamoto simply throws the hornet out of the window. Everyone starts cheering for Sakamoto. The class laughs at Sarah for how he was challenging the hornet. Sarah, however, gets motivated as he is getting attention and tries to act as a comedian. Later, he asks Sakamoto to be his comedy partner, but Sakamoto refuses. A girl who usually sits in front of Sakamoto keeps staring at him in the eyes. As she keeps staring, she feels like his eyes are looking straight through her heart. But just then, Sakamoto writes something in his notebook, and she realizes he is actually writing what the teacher is teaching, and gets shocked that he was not looking at her. Instead, his eyes were actually looking through her so he could copy from the blackboard, and the teacher asked this girl to face front. At lunchtime, all the boys gather around her. They even compliment her on her lunch. Even Sarah throws her the lamest joke of all time, but the girl still smiles at him, which surprises Sarah. The other girls sitting in the back, Tanaka and Yagi, start bad-mouthing her and reveal that the lunch she was showing the boys is actually from a shop that makes lunches like homemade cooking. They also blame her for stealing another girl named Kana's boyfriend. But this girl, whose name is Kuronuma, hears them and says she is not here for small fries, she is after a big fish. Sakamoto. She decides to use her secret techniques that make men fall for her. In a self-study period, she uses technique number 1, entering the opponent's personal space and sitting on his left side. As most people use their right hand, it creates a wall between the two. But she gets shocked when she sees Sakamoto writing with both hands and gets confused about which side is the wall. She ends up sitting in front of him, and Tanaka and Yagi laugh at this. Now she tries technique number 2, calling the opponent by his first name. But when she tries to check Sakamoto's paper, she notices he has covered it, so she asks him directly. Sakamoto tells her that his full name is actually Sakamoto, which the girls take as another rejection. Now she moves to technique number 3, mimicking the opponent's movements. When she notices Sakamoto holding a scale, she also holds one but cannot match his style. Kuronuma gets tired and decides to use technique number 4. If push comes to shove, then push back. She leaves the class, but Sakamoto does not follow her. This shocks her, as she cannot believe there is a man who would not fall for her techniques. Just then, she notices another technique in her book. She goes back to class and suggests to Sakamoto, who is sitting on the back lockers, to play Kokuri-san with her. In this technique number 5, her goal is to share an exciting moment and make it seem romantic. Kokuri-san is a fortune-telling game where you draw a sheet with yes, no, soro 9, and the hiragana letters. Hiragana letters are basic Japanese syllable letters like ya, ta, ku, with a torii at the top, and torii is the Japanese shrine gate symbol. You place a coin on the torii, everyone lightly touches it, ask a question, and the coin slides to letters or yes-no to give the answer. Tanaka and Yagi also hear this and ask to join her too, and Kuronuma gets shocked at where these hyenas came from. But she cannot lose her cool in front of Sakamoto and agrees to them, but in her thoughts she tells them to get out. And Sakamoto also agrees with it and tells them he will watch from here. The game starts, and Tanaka asks if the book Sakamoto is reading belongs to Kuronuma. Kuronuma realizes these girls are trying to insult her in front of Sakamoto. They try to force the answer to yes, but Kuronuma forces it to no and wins this round. Next, Yagi asks Kokuri-san if Kuronuma is a bitch. This time, Kuronuma uses all her force because she cannot let the answer be yes. She forces it to no again and wins this round. Next, it is her turn, and she asks who Sakamoto likes. Now all three try to place the coin on hiragana letters to make their own names, but the coin gets flipped and falls on the ground. All three get shocked, and Tanaka reveals a rumor that if the coin does not land, the spirit will haunt them. Suddenly they notice that Sakamoto is being possessed by a spirit. When they start pleading to give them their Sakamoto back, the spirit tells them they must immediately present her with a torii 6 feet in height, with front and back preferable. She gives them only 20 minutes. At first they think it is impossible, but when she reveals that otherwise she will take Sakamoto's body to the mountain, all three get shocked. Tanaka suggests stacking desks into the shape of a torii. Kuronuma acts like an elite hoe and says she has never carried anything heavier than a chair. Tanaka and Yagi shout at her, asking if she is okay with Sakamoto being taken away. Kuronuma realizes her mistake while they build the torii themselves. She just watches from the side until a chair about to fall on Yagi. At this moment, Kuronuma saves her and decides to help, but only for Sakamoto. Finally, they make a torii. Sakamoto walks from one of the desks, and the spirit leaves his body. The girls get happy and emotional, and they all become friends. It turns out that Sakamoto was also performing a technique from Kuronuma's book. All this act was just to verify the technique that would make them friends, which ultimately was successful. One day, Sakamoto is helping one of his classmates, Kubota, with his studies. When Kubota's mother brings tea and sweets for them, and they hear her footsteps, Sakamoto instantly hides away. When she enters, she tells Kubota that she heard Sakamoto's voice, but Kubota tells her he was talking to himself. His mother suggests he should invite Sakamoto over again. Actually, Kubota's mother desperately wants Sakamoto. It all started 2 weeks ago when Sakamoto got full marks in every test. Kubota begged him to teach him because he had failed in every subject, and he invited him to his house. When Sakamoto entered, he greeted his mother like a true gentleman. His mother could not hold back her feelings and instantly fell for him. After that, she complimented everything about him, even recorded him while he was tutoring Kubota and cooked delicious food for him. She even bought a 10,000 yen face massager to look pretty. Kubota explained all this to Sakamoto and begged him to hide from his mother whenever she entered his room. Now, after she leaves, they start studying again, but suddenly Kubota remembers he forgot his textbook at school. He decides to go and get it and tells Sakamoto if anything happens, just call his cell phone. He leaves, and his mother sees him leaving. Just as he steps out, she opens the shoe locker, finds Sakamoto's shoes, and instantly realizes he is still in the house. She starts searching, enters Kubota's room, and looks under the bed. But Sakamoto has already left the bed and is hiding on the ceiling like a spider. He quickly slips out and hides in another room. Kubota's mother runs there and searches everywhere, but Sakamoto is under the table. Suddenly, she hears a noise near the curtains and opens them, thinking he's behind them. She keeps chasing Sakamoto, but he hides in impossible ways, even in the carpet and the washing machine. She suddenly hears noise from the bathroom and checks it, but cannot find Sakamoto because he is under the cover of the bathtub. While she leaves the bathroom, Sakamoto's phone rings and she rushes back to the bathroom, but Sakamoto escapes again through the shower. When she comes out, she notices wet footprints and follows them to the balcony. She sees a rope of tied clothes and gets disappointed, thinking he escaped, but Sakamoto is actually hiding just behind her. Later, she plays a CD of her drama and starts feeling strange, like her heart is burning. Sakamoto hears this from behind the curtain and decides to sort things out. Sakamoto instantly comes behind the TV mirror. Just then, Kubota comes back and rushes to the TV room as he hears his mom's voice on the phone. But now Sakamoto pretends that he is not a real person. Instead, he is just an imaginary image of her ideal person, which is caused by watching too much romance drama. Kubota's mom believes this and starts crying as she never thought the one-sided love would hurt this much. By the way, I'm more worried about Kubota's father. Kakuta-sensei waits at the main school gate to close it so students who are late cannot enter, but one student always comes late. Today, when the bell rings, Kakuta-sensei instantly starts to close the gate, but suddenly, Sakamoto comes running with a bamboo stick. Seeing the stick in Sakamoto's hand, Kakuta-sensei realizes he will use it to jump over the gate, so he rushes to Sakamoto's position to block him. But Sakamoto simply drives the bamboo into the soil and enters through the door, leaving Kakuta-sensei in shock. Later in the staff room, Kakuta-sensei gets nervous because every morning, Sakamoto arrives at the last second, and he starts to feel like Sakamoto is playing with him. A female teacher tells him that some students have been standing behind the school building, disregarding school rules, and asks Kakuta-sensei to scold them. He instantly stands up and goes behind the building, finally seeing an opportunity to scold Sakamoto, as even the most brilliant student might violate one or two rules. When he arrives, he notices Sakamoto, Maeda, and his other two friends making a plan, and he assumes they are talking about smoking. All four of them go behind the wall, and Kakuta-sensei notices smoke coming out. He rushes there, only to find that they are actually competing to make soap bubbles. Maeda and his friends admire Sakamoto for such a great idea, they even quit smoking and started making bubbles instead. After this, Kakuta-sensei decides to keep watch on Sakamoto to find an opportunity. While passing, he notices boys in the class playing with brooms instead of cleaning, and he also notices Sakamoto doing the same thing. Just when he is about to confront him, Mi-chan stops him and tells him to watch closely. Kakuta-sensei realizes that Sakamoto is actually cleaning the ceiling, and his movements look like a dance because he is dodging every particle of dust. After this, Kakuta-sensei goes back to the staff room, thinking about a way to scold Sakamoto. Suddenly, he realizes his next class is Sakamoto's class, so he heads there. Just before entering, he sees a group of students watching something on the ground, but he ignores them and calls everyone inside. While teaching about sexual characteristics, Kakuta-sensei notices that the class is dead silent. Even Maeda is paying close attention. Suddenly, he hears a sound and thinks someone's phone is ringing, but no one reacts. He warns that if it rings again, he will confiscate it. When Kakuta-sensei peeks at Sakamoto, he sees him sitting on his desk in the most elegant way, like in a dinner show. He realizes he cannot scold him because Sakamoto is paying attention, but then Sakamoto pulls a plate of rice from his desk. Kakuta-sensei gets surprised that Sakamoto has no side dish, as this will upset his stomach. But then he realizes Sakamoto is actually eating. Kakuta-sensei sees this as morally forbidden and finally his chance to scold Sakamoto. Still, he is shocked at how Sakamoto eats so calmly, assuming he is treating this health class itself as a side dish. Sakamoto takes a bite, and Kakuta-sensei instantly shouts at him to go stand in the hall. Sakamoto stands up, thanks Kakuta-sensei, and leaves the class. Everyone starts mumbling, and Kakuta-sensei feels happy that he finally managed to scold Sakamoto. But after a few moments, he gets nervous and decides to peek at Sakamoto. When he goes outside, he realizes Sakamoto is actually feeding chewed rice to a sparrow the students had been watching earlier. This touches Kakuta-sensei's heart. He realizes that Sakamoto provoked him on purpose so he could save the dying sparrow and regrets his behavior. The next day, Sakamoto again arrives at the last moment. This time, Kakuta-sensei remains calm and decides to give him a few more minutes. Still, Sakamoto enters in the most classical way. One day, a blonde-haired boy walks through the corridor, and his gang members admire him, complimenting his hair and clothes. While walking, they see a group of girls waiting for someone. The boss, whose name is Hayabusa, asks his gang members the reason. Before anyone can reply, Sakamoto suddenly appears from the corridor, and all the girls go crazy. Hayabusa's right-hand man gets scared of Sakamoto because of his past history with him. This surprises Hayabusa, and the gang members who are first-year students also tell him that Sakamoto is famous among them too, and that he always does everything over the top. After hearing this, and seeing his right-hand man terrified by Sakamoto's name alone, Hayabusa decides to confront Sakamoto himself. Meanwhile, in class, Sakamoto is having a normal conversation with Kubota, who is thinking of getting a new haircut. Sarah also appears and tries to make them laugh. Just then, Hayabusa enters the classroom, scaring the boys while the girls think he is hot. When Hayabusa approaches Sakamoto and glares at him, Maeda and his friends recognize him as the top dog of the school. Hayabusa asks Sakamoto to lend him his face. So Sakamoto pulls out an oil clay, slams his face on it, hands it to Hayabusa, and asks him to return it before the third period tomorrow because he needs it for art class. Hayabusa is shocked for a moment. Sakamoto actually lent him his face. Just then, the girls notice Hayabusa holding Sakamoto's face mask. Knowing they could copy it with wax or plastic, all the girls instantly attack Hayabusa to get it. Hayabusa dodges every girl and thinks Sakamoto signaled them to attack. Even Kiranuma lands a hard punch on him, making Hayabusa realize Sakamoto is no average opponent. He crushes the clay with his fist, steps on it so it cannot be used, and asks Sakamoto to come to the riverbank after school. When Hayabusa leaves, Kubota asks him what he will do, but Sakamoto says he has cleaning duty after class and cannot go. Hayabusa's gang members overhear from outside and decide to give him a reason. While Sakamoto goes to the washroom, they take away his shoes. When Sakamoto returns, he sees a message written that Hayabusa is calling him, and if he wants his shoes back, he must go to the riverbank. Instead, Sakamoto uses a marker and makes a shoe pattern on his socks and walks through the hallway without being scolded by teachers. Later, in class, Mai-chan and Kana try to hang a poster and ask Sakamoto to help with the scale. One member steals Sakamoto's scale and leaves another message, but Sakamoto notices Kakuta-sensei walking by, so he uses his hair to place the poster properly. Later, the delinquents come up with another plan, but stop when they see Kubota passing by. When Sakamoto returns with a plastic bag on his back, Kubota suddenly shows up bald, pretending he got a new haircut. When Sakamoto tells him it suits him, Kubota starts crying that he had a new haircut, but this hurts him. Sakamoto notices a message on his head, takes the plastic bag, makes a wig for his friend, and then leaves to confront Hayabusa. Finally, Sakamoto reaches the riverbank. He removes his glasses, making Hayabusa realize that Sakamoto is dead serious. Those eyes are not for an ordinary person. Just as Hayabusa is about to punch him, a policeman stops them. When asked what they were doing, since fighting is illegal, Sakamoto says they were actually playing hand sumo. Hayabusa's gang members immediately agree and explain it is a game where the opponent must push the other using only their hands, and if their feet move, they lose. The policeman catches their excuse but sits down to see the match. So now, Hayabusa and Sakamoto have to play hand sumo in front of the policeman so they both don't get into trouble. Hayabusa notices that Sakamoto is looking dead serious, so he decides to crush him in this game too. When he tries to land the first push, Sakamoto instantly pushes his hand away, and Hayabusa barely manages to balance his feet. The policeman comments that Sakamoto is actually dead serious, saying that the move was just a feint to defeat his opponent. Now Hayabusa also decides to take this seriously, and both go into a one-on-one match, trying to push each other's hands. Sakamoto remains in defensive mode, and then suddenly starts spinning his hand like a helicopter. The match continues, and suddenly it starts to rain. During the match, Hayabusa's underlings try to push Sakamoto's feet from the back, but Hayabusa instantly stops them. Just then, Sakamoto uses his secret technique, a standing antenna, and raises one hand into the air. The policeman and everyone realize it looks dangerous. It seems like he is summoning lightning from the strum to strike Hayabusa, but Hayabusa decides to keep attacking Sakamoto. Seeing Hayabusa at his limit and still fighting, his gang members regret their actions and tell him that they are responsible because they were the ones who took what was important to Sakamoto. That's why Sakamoto is serious this time. But suddenly, a taxi stops right behind Hayabusa, and Sakamoto pushes him into it. He reveals that he was not summoning lightning. He was summoning the taxi because it started raining, and he did not want Hayabusa to get cold. These words touch Hayabusa's heart, and he admits his defeat. Everyone apologized to Sakamoto. The policeman does not understand what happened but decides to leave as the town is again at peace. While riding in the taxi, Hayabusa's gang members apologize to him. Hayabusa tells Sakamoto he is sorry too and will take full responsibility. He even offers to repay anything, but Sakamoto tells them that he wants them to go somewhere else and takes them shopping. On the other hand, Kubota is crying in his room at home, but his mother rushes in and tells him that some handsome guests have arrived. When he goes to the door, Hayabusa and his underlings apologize with food as a token of apology, and they all have a party. The next day, Sakamoto catches a cold, and the school nurse asks if he has a fever. Sakamoto denies it, but the nurse insists on checking his temperature. Sakamoto checks his temperature in the coolest way, and it turns out he does have a fever. The nurse tells him to lie down on one of the beds, but Sakamoto leaves, which makes her thirsty. Desired mission fails. Sakamoto goes into the home economics lab, pulls out an onion, and ties it around his neck like a tie, on which everyone goes wild as he even uses the onion in a cool way. This girl Megumi has a certain hobby that she cannot tell anyone about. It is taking secret pictures of Sakamoto. She is too shy to come in front of him and only takes these photos to satisfy herself. But while coming back from the convenience store, Megumi suddenly notices a ghost appearing in multiple pictures of Sakamoto. The next day in class, while her friends talk about scary stories, Megumi keeps thinking about the ghost in her photos. Kana asks her if she's bad with scary stuff. She tells Megumi a charm and asks her to look at Sakamoto and breathe in and out. Megumi decides to warn Sakamoto about the ghost. While everyone is heading to the next class, she approaches him, but just as she is about to speak, she realizes that revealing it will expose her secret of taking pictures. Afraid that Sakamoto will be disgusted, she remains quiet and lets him leave. But suddenly, a nearby cleaning trolley moves on its own and rushes towards Sakamoto. The girls try to warn Sakamoto, but he jumps into trolley, and everyone gets excited to see him use it so smoothly to switch between classes. However, Megumi knows a poltergeist was trying to harm him, and she needs to tell him. Later, Megumi asks Sakamoto if anything strange has happened, disguising it as a survey question for their grades. Sakamoto tells her that Kubota's hair has suddenly grown longer. Megumi realizes he hasn't noticed the ghost and tries to think of another way to warn him without showing the photos. Then Sakamoto hears running water and thinks someone left the tap open. When he checks, he finds long hair in the sink. Sakamoto instantly grabs the hair, squeezes the water out, and runs off with it. Megumi follows and finds him actually extending Kubota's hair. When Kubota is asked where it came from, Sakamoto tells him he cultivated it. He asks him to stay still, but the hair moves on its own. Later, Megumi decides to talk to Kubota and explains everything. He tells her he has noticed strange things too. At first, he thought Sakamoto was flipping through books too fast, but now he realizes it was the ghost turning the pages. He advises her to show Sakamoto the photos, but Megumi refuses, afraid that he will hate her. Kubota tells her to listen to her own heart because it seems she and the ghost have something in common. While walking, Megumi reflects on this and hears voices and notices Sakamoto playing butt sumo with Maeda and others. By habit, she pulls out her camera and starts snapping pictures. Even Kuronuma brings things to Sakamoto. Megumi realizes she always lurks in the shadows and can only watch from afar, just like the ill-tempered spirit. When she checks her photos, the ghost isn't all of them again, but the shape of its mouth is different each time. She deciphers the ghost's message. Megumi rushes to the convenience store, prints the photos, and finds Sakamoto heading to the copy room. She shows him the pictures and explains that the ghost is trying to say she likes him. At that moment, she realizes the ghost is just like her. She also likes Sakamoto, as she herself just gives Sakamoto a nervous, tasteless confession, but insists the spirit is not there to harm him. It only wanted to express feelings. Sakamoto asks her to help with his copies, and she thinks it is over, that now he will hate her. But when she enters the copy room, she sees Sakamoto printing images of his own face. When she looks closely, his lips spell out, "Thank you very much," the same as the ghost's message. Just then, all the images fly out the window, and even Kubota's extended hair disappears. From then on, the ghost never appears again in Megumi's photos or near Sakamoto. Megumi can finally take pictures openly, and even asks Sakamoto to pose and look look into the camera. The school sports festival is just 3 days away, and everyone is already talking about how Class 2 will win since they have Sakamoto on their side. But then Sarah tells them that none of the boys have any admirers. They think Sarah is just trying to be a comedian again, but Sarah puts on his shirt and tells them the comedian has been sealed. He reminds them that it's an exercise festival, a chance to show the girls how cool they are. So he makes a bold, motivated speech about how they should start a revolution against Sakamoto. When the other boys tell him that they cannot defeat Sakamoto, Sarah explains that a revolution is done in groups and is for everyone. This convinces them, and they all agree to try and beat Sakamoto. On the day of the festival, in the bread eating race, Sarah's group specially crafts Sakamoto's bread with wires so he can't bite it off. When the race starts, Sakamoto runs toward the bread at incredible speed, and all the girls cheer for him. When he grabs the bread, Sarah feels happy that now they will get a chance to shine. But Sakamoto suddenly starts rolling, and the teacher realizes he is using a secret technique he once saw during an Amazon cruise, an alligator's death roll. Sakamoto successfully pulls it off and instantly rushes back. But when he looks behind and sees the other boys struggling, he tears his bread in half and feeds them like dogs. Everyone starts crying, and even a woman asks the teacher if she can make Sakamoto her son-in-law. Sarah gets angry, and they decide to take more revenge. As Sakamoto continues, even the second and third year girls cheer for him. Sarah plans with the others to make this into a public execution. When Sakamoto climbs on top of the boys during the pyramid stunt, they intentionally move to make him fall. But Sakamoto balances himself, looking like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the crowd goes wild. Sarah's group realizes that even more girls are motivated by Sakamoto, and that all their admirers are stolen by him. The only girls left for them are in the senior age brackets, but even old women cheer for Sakamoto. Just when everyone is about to give up, thinking revolution against Sakamoto is impossible, Sarah tells him the next event is a boy-girl mixed relay, and he is the final runner of Class 2. He declares he will make the revolution succeed. The race begins, and Sakamoto is handed the baton by his classmate, but he suddenly falls on the ground. Everyone is shocked. It turns out that just minutes before the race, Sarah offered to tie Sakamoto's shoelaces, but actually tied them together. But instead of stopping, Sakamoto starts crawling, and everyone realizes what technique he will use. Sakamoto runs like a cheetah, surprising Sarah, who never expected this. Sakamoto passes everyone and hands over the baton to Yagi. Yagi feels nervous, and when she grabs the baton, it slips from her hand because Sakamoto's saliva made it slippery. She falls to the ground, and the other girls mock her, even the old ladies, saying she ruined Sakamoto's struggle. Yagi feels humiliated, but still decides to do her best. She runs towards Sarah, who is the final runner for them. Sarah notices that Yagi is crying, and Sakamoto, standing beside him, tells him that Yagi will remember this part the most throughout her life. Seeing Yagi's tears as she rushes toward him, Sarah decides to show everyone the true will of a common man. He unseals his comedian self and runs at full strength. Later, Yagi apologizes while eating with Kuronuma and Tanaka, saying she messed up. But Tanaka tells her not to worry, because it was simply cute. They do get angry at Sarah though, because he ran butt naked through the entire stadium. Afterwards, while Sarah eats under a tree, Sakamoto also appears there with the bird he saved before. Sarah tells him that he cannot do comedy anymore with him because his stomach is already full. But Sakamoto replies with one line, saying there are even metabolic heroes too, and excuses himself. Just then, Yagi passes by Sarah. She tells him she isn't there for him. She's just going to wash her hands, but she adds that he was unexpectedly a cool guy back there.